Simon Sinek had a question. He wondered what was the unique dynamic that united all of the greatest leaders in history. And as he studied their stories, he discovered a single word that threaded through each of them. Without exception, they all knew their why. Why is our purpose, it's our calling, and we can't be truly effective until we can answer that question for ourselves. Why? Good news, Simon Sinek is joining me today on my show, and he'll be talking about what it takes to find your why. Stay tuned for an interesting discussion with Simon Sinek on today's One Simple Thing.
It's time to build a better business by building a better you. This is One Simple Thing.
I am Dave Kirby. Thank you so much for being here. I am so looking forward to this show. It's been one of my goals since I started One Simple Thing to have this man on the program with me. His name is Simon Sinek. He is the author of 2 books, the global bestseller, Start With Why, that's become somewhat of a definitive work in the world of business. And his newest book, Leaders Eat Last. He's best known for popularizing the concept of why, and the talk he gave on the subject became the second most watched talk of all time at TED.com. He speaks around the globe. He's been featured in the New York Times, Inc. magazine, NPR, and lots of other places as well. And now he's here with us on the One Simple Thing podcast. Simon, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. Been looking forward to it since I started, especially since we booked you, but it's been a goal of mine since we started the podcast, so it's good to have you here. Let's start where you start in your book, Start With Why. And what does a world without why look like for us?
Kind of looks like the world we're living in. A world with why is one in which people wake up in the morning, they feel inspired to go to work, they feel safe when they're there, and they return home fulfilled at the end of the day. A world with why means companies preoccupy themselves with long-term and not the short-term. A world that starts with why means we listen to each other and we cooperate rather than attack each other and try and cut each other down. And we look for ways for everyone to win rather than for us to win and the other guy to lose, you know? And increasingly, we live in a world in which companies are preoccupied with the short term at the expense of the long term, where we use layoffs, we use people's lives to manage the books just for that year. We need to push our world back into a world that starts with why, quite frankly.
Well, why does the world look so much different when we start with why? I mean, how does it change the environment around us when we have a whole world full of people that are starting with why?
Well, there's a biology to it. This concept of why is not my opinion. It exists in the biology of human decision making. What we do and the things we count and rational and analytical thought and language all exist in a part of the brain called the neocortex. Whereas our feelings like trust and loyalty and also all of our decisions and also all of our feelings exist in a part of the brain called the limbic brain. And this is what the why is. It's a sense of purpose, a sense of cause, a sense of belief. This is why we will do quote unquote irrational things, where we will fly across the country to see someone we love, or we will pay more money for a brand we're loyal to, even though we know we can get about the same product cheaper somewhere else. It means we'll travel across town to see somebody we like versus making friends locally. I mean, all of these things that are quote unquote irrational, we do them because our decisions are not driven by rational thought as much as we like to think they are. We can rationalize for sure.
I will make sure we have a link on the show notes for today's page because I think you do an excellent job of describing that in your TED Talk. And I want everybody that's a homework assignment for everybody who's listening. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes. But we live in a world where mostly people have not started with the why. You've explained to us, and I'm going to say the word why a lot, I think, today, but why is important. So one of the things I've heard you say is that many companies and probably individuals too could tell you what they do. Some could even tell you how they do it, but not very many can answer why they do what they do. Why do you think that's so rare for people to really get clear on why they're doing what they do?
Again, it goes back to the biology. It's not that this concept of why doesn't exist. It's just hard to measure, it's easy to measure things like results. It's easy to measure things like revenues or profits or market share or anything like that. But how do you measure trust? How do you measure loyalty? those things are very difficult. How do you measure the friendship you have with your friends, the love you have for your spouse? We know it exists, but how do you measure it? And this is why it often gets short shrifted or dismissed as fluff or soft. These are the words we use: soft skills, things like that. They're dismissed, not because they don't exist. It's just because it's hard to touch them, hard to feel them, and hard to measure them. But those who understand them, and this includes all the great leaders in the world, whether it's Steve Jobs or Martin Luther King, they all had a crystal clear sense of purpose or cause or belief. They understood their why, and that's what drew us to them. Because they weren't perfect, that's for sure. But it was their sense of cause that was inspiring and drew us to them and inspired us to follow them.
I've thought often about the ancient civilizations, whether the Aztecs or the Egyptians or whatever, and they took on these massive, complicated building projects, some of which modern engineering still doesn't understand exactly how they got it done, right? In these prehistoric eras with primitive tools, et cetera. And I've often thought about what enabled them to do that. And what I keep coming back to is what you're saying. It's that why, whether it was their gods or their religious beliefs or whatever it might have been. There was a compelling why to do that, right?
Yeah, I mean, a group of people driven by common cause will work together and do remarkable things together, where a group of people who are driven by self-gain won't work well together. You can look at the culture of the strong cultures of companies versus the weak cultures of companies. Strong cultures of companies, the employees will come together to advance the greater good, sometimes at personal sacrifice. Whereas the companies with weak cultures, like many of our investment banks, for example, trust runs low and politics runs high, and everybody's in it for self-gain, even if it comes at the expense of the organization or of others. These are high-stress environments to work in a place like that. Human beings are social animals, and we want to feel safe in the environments in which we live and the environments in which we work. And if we do not feel safe, we become cynical, paranoid, mistrustful, and self-interested. And so this is, to your point, when our leaders give us common cause, it's amazing what we will do for each other and together. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it really blows my mind that they were able to accomplish some of the things they were able to accomplish, giving the technology that they had. And it starts with that common cause and also just the belief that you can.
Yeah.
So in your book, and it's, Start With Why has become, I think, kind of a business classic at this point. And one of the kind of the groundbreaking concepts that you developed for Start With Why is this idea of what you call the golden circle. Can you explain to us what that circle looks like? And I know it's set up kind of as a series of concentric circles, right?
Right. As I was saying before, the golden circle is simply a way of describing this biology of human decision making, this simple model. And basically, if you can imagine a bullseye, 3 concentric circles, and the outside ring is what we do, the middle ring is how we do it, and the bullseye is why we do what we do. And that construction I call the golden circle. Every single one of us knows what we do, the products we sell, the services we offer. Some of us know how we do it, the things that we think make us different or special or stand out from the crowd. But very, very few people can clearly articulate why they do what they do. And again, by why, I don't mean to make money. That's a result. I mean, what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your company exist? Why do we need you? Somebody else can do what you do. Why do we need you? Why do you get out of bed in the morning, and why should anyone care? And you need all levels filled of the golden circle. It's not enough to simply know what you do or how you do it. You've got to know why.
You're primarily talking about businesses, and this podcast also does. But I could see crossover even into our individual lives, right? If we're going to be a good parent, it's not so much what we do, but why we do it, right?
Well, it's all three. It's all three, except the why often gets forgotten because it's hard to measure. Remember?
Yeah.
If all you do is what and you ignore why, you look like an investment bank. Where it's not all investment banks, but some of these unhealthy cultures where we're willing to stab each other in the back for personal gain. That's an unhealthy corporate culture. But when it's all why and no what, then it's a hippie commune and it's all kumbaya and nobody gets anything done. And that's not very fulfilling either. That also runs out of steam, So you got to have it all. You got to have it all. But you're absolutely right. And the reason is because we're human beings. I'm describing the relationships that people have with each other and the organizations for which they work, or in which they live. And it's all human being stuff. So sure, it's applicable everywhere. It's applicable in churches and congregations. It's applicable in on the playground. It's applicable in the family. It's applicable in a business. It's applicable whenever groups of people come together to do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the concept, and we're nearing the end of the show today. So what I like to do at the end of each episode is kind of give us a starting point, a launching point for somebody who's listening to this interview, and maybe they've read your book or maybe they haven't. Where would you recommend they start in understanding their own why?
Well, I'll give you a fun little exercise. We actually have a product on our website called the Why Discovery Course, which people can visit at startwithwhy.com, which is a whole tool designed to help people find their why. But I'll give you another way of doing it, which is fun, which is find one of your closest, dearest friends, somebody you love, somebody that if they called you at 3 o'clock in the morning, you would answer no questions, and if you needed them at 3 o'clock in the morning, they would be there for you. And ask them this simple question: why are we friends? And they're going to look at you and be like, what? And then you stop asking why and you start asking what? What is it about me that we're such close friends? What is it about me that I know that you would sacrifice or do anything to take care of me? Now, it's hard for them to put into words because you're asking them to put into words a feeling they have. Remember that limbic brain stuff. And they'll say things like, I don't know. Why are you asking me this? And it's not that they don't know. It's just that they can't articulate it. And so you have to play devil's advocate. Come on, what is it about me? And they'll start describing you. You're smart, you're funny, I can count on you. And again, you play devil's advocate. That's the description of a friend. What is it about me specifically that I know you'd be there for me? And they'll go through this cycle. They'll keep trying to describe you and be frustrated, and you can't help them, and you can't let anybody else help them. And eventually they'll give up, and they'll describe themselves. And this is what my friend said to me. They said, I don't know, Simon. All I know is that I don't even have to talk to you. I can just be in the same room as you, and I feel inspired. And I got goosebumps. And that's the why. The thing you give to the world is the thing that your friends value in you. And so they will say something about themselves that will give you an emotional reaction, whether it's goosebumps or you well up. And that's when you know you've tapped your why.
Oh, that's powerful. Simon, thank you for being with us today. We're going to talk again on the next episode, kind of continue this process of discovering our own why, and then, of course, what to do about it once we find it. So thank you again for being with us. Look forward to next time.
My pleasure. Thanks very much.
What a fascinating concept that is, too. The fact that what you give to the world, that's the thing that your friends is going to see in you. That's what's going to be of value in you to your friends. You start with asking them what they see in you, and you'll begin to discover your own purpose, your own why. Great advice from Simon Sinek. Can't wait for the next episode. We'll have him back here on the One Simple Thing podcast. His book is called Start With Why. His newest book, Leaders Eat Last. We have links to both of those on the website. Just go to onesimplethingonline.com. You will see the banner ad there on the right-hand side of the page for Simon Sinek. And I would encourage you to pick up his books. They are both fascinating, and you will definitely learn and grow from reading those books. Going to have him on the show next time. Hope you'll join me. I'm Dave Kirby. Hey, while you're there at the website, would you sign up for our mailing list? We've got a special gift we want to send you. It's a PDF. We call it Tools of the Trade. It's some of the apps that we use here to manage our workflow, make sure that we get everything done. You might learn a tip or two along the way. Maybe learn about a new app that you haven't seen yet. So check it out. It's absolutely free. It's just a PDF download when you sign up for our mailing list at onesimplethingonline.com. I'm Dave Kirby. Thank you for being here. Look forward to seeing you next time on the One Simple Thing podcast.